Well, I hope you're enjoying not being at a conference this time. Even though I like being at the conferences, it is sometimes nice to be able to be at home. Hope you are having a good time. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Swanbom, and on behalf of the team at Louisiana Tech University and Louisiana Delta Community College, I'd like to say thank you for watching this presentation. We are going to do a presentation today called Building a Comprehensive Collaborative Infrastructure to Create Instrumentation Workforce Pathways. And I'm going to unpack that a little bit for you today. This is work that is funded by the National Science Foundation under the Advanced Technological Education Program and Grant 1801177. And so everything that we do with this is our own opinions and not necessarily reflective of what the National Science Foundation thinks about things. Here's what motivated this project. We saw that there were changing needs in the workforce, and particularly in things like manufacturing. More and more things were becoming automated, and so the types of skills that are needed in those areas become more and more technical, even though they don't necessarily have to require a very advanced degree, even a 4-year degree or something like that. Here's a couple of pieces of information. National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine said that 3.4 million technical jobs are expected to be unfilled by 2022. In Louisiana, 6 of 9 key Louisiana industries rely fairly heavily on automation technology and people who can deal with that kind of equipment. It isn't very clear as the workforce that currently deals with that kind of equipment, as it ages and people start retiring, it's not very clear necessarily how we replace those people, since a lot of the people who were working in those areas didn't necessarily go through any kind of a college program. And so these were some of the things that we were watching and seeing, that there needs to be a better way of introducing people at an early age, generally high school or earlier, to some of the opportunities that are available with respect to these high-tech jobs in manufacturing. So this was our mission: to prepare and connect potential laborers to industry needs in order to grow our region's economy. And in order to do this, we wanted to actually reach our program's reach. We wanted to reach about 500 students in the North Louisiana area. To do that, the two things that we're sort of trying to do that is, one, we're creating a curriculum. It's actually a course that can be offered at high schools, and that course is designed to try to instill some of the skills and knowledge that students are going to need going into this program. And specifically, it has a lot to do with circuits, but that's not really the focus of this paper. The focus of this paper deals more with how are we managing and how are we trying to sort of coordinate what's going on with this project. Secondly, we're also trying to create these connections between the high school students and, honestly, their teachers and administrators as well, to higher education and industry. To go into these types of fields, you usually do need a little bit more training beyond high school, but you don't always need a 4-year degree. We're trying to make the connections from high schools to those kinds of areas. So that's what we're doing. To try to accomplish that, we're using this thing called a network-centered approach that it was named that by the National Academy of Engineering. And this is a cool quote here: "Students, guidance counselors, workers, business owners, manufacturers, labor leaders, school administrators, and community college teachers should work together to create local solutions." And that's exactly what we're trying to do with this project. Here are our goals that we're trying to achieve. First of all, to get our management structure of this project kind of coordinated between the primary institution, which is Louisiana Delta Community College, and a subcontracting institution, which is Louisiana Tech University. So we had to get all of our ducks in a row as far as how that relationship is going to work and who all was going to be involved. Secondly, we wanted to identify a high school partner that was going to be our primary partner, the first school to actually try to run this curriculum that we're writing, but also a place where we can try out the other elements of this curriculum or of this project as well, things that have to do with connection to industry. One of the things that it can motivate a student to want to get into this are some of these agreements that we also made a part of this project. Those agreements allow students who go through this course in high school to actually get credit at Delta Community College in their instrumentation program, and they can finish that 2-year program if they want, or they can take that credit that they got at the Louisiana Delta 2-year program and transfer it over into Louisiana Tech University's Instrumentation and Control Systems Engineering Technology program, which is a 4-year treatment of similar kind of topics. Fourth, we wanted to establish an industrial advisory board so that they could help us direct what we're doing with this project, since the focus is to try to get students connected with those industries. And then lastly, we wanted to actually get enough partners together to where we could have some good reach. And our goal was to get 7 partners, high school partners, by the end of this. Here's how we're doing with those goals. First of all, the management structure, yes, we've got that done. We did it on time. Did we get a primary high school partner? Yes, we did, and we did that on time. They're a great school. It's a Bossier Parish School for Technology and Innovative Learning. BIPSTL, we always just call them BIPSTL, so I sometimes have to run through my head what that actually stands for. Anyway, they've been a great partner. Transfer agreements. We don't have those entirely in place yet. We do have the one for dual enrollment. We just haven't quite completed the one that actually establishes what that articulation is going to be between Delta Community College and Louisiana Tech University. Industrial Advisory Board. Yes, we did form that Industrial Advisory Board. Thank you to the people who have stepped up to join that from industry. And then we've almost got all of our high school partners. We only need one more for that. So we're doing fairly well with getting all of these things settled. Okay, for our management structure, the first thing is to make sure you got the right people in place. At Louisiana Delta Community College, we kind of tapped into a leader there who had good connections in the community and who was good with people. So that was a good connection that we had there. We had a good team of 4 people from Louisiana Tech University who were good with curriculum. We've done a lot of curriculum writing. We have a manager of the whole project. Since Louisiana Delta Community College doesn't do a lot of these projects, we decided there better be someone they kind of hired to sort of shepherd the whole program. And then we've got a lot of good help from our, we have an external firm that's doing some evaluation of our project, and so they're helping us to know whether or not we're meeting some of our goals. We started out meeting once a month, but then we shifted that to meeting every other week because there's just too much going on. We have to make sure that everything is being coordinated. Had to establish all of our accounting and subcontracts, of course, just to make the project run. And then we hired a coordinator that actually worked with the overall manager on the Louisiana Delta Community College side in order to sort of run some of the events and just keep up with all the communications that need to happen on a day-to-day basis with our partners. All this was accomplished on time, and we feel pretty good about that. I mentioned earlier our high school partner, our primary high school partner. They've been a great help in curriculum development. They do sort of a real-time review of the types of curriculum that we're preparing as we get lessons finished. We put them into a Google Drive folder, and then our partner there reviews those and sees if they're appropriate for kind of level as well as scope and whether they're clear, and gives us recommendations, and then we can take those and incorporate any of the recommendations into the final version. They also, this high school partner helped us to know how best to market this curriculum as well as the rest of the program to other high schools in a way that makes it attractive for them to be able to use this as well. So what is it that makes a high school want to adopt this? They gave us a lot of good tips about that. Things like, are we going to try to establish a industry-based certification, right? That's a big deal in our state. It helps certain types of funding to open up. Also, how do you communicate with students and parents? And using words like making a lot of money, high pay, right, or high tech. That kind of stuff tends to sell pretty well with the parents and students who are going to actually have to choose to get into this program to make it worthwhile for the high schools. So all of this was accomplished on time as well. Our transfer agreements. This is one where we're lagging behind just a little bit, but we did eventually get our dual enrollment stuff put in place. There were more challenges with this than we thought, partly and largely actually due to some credentialing questions as well as just how the paperwork is supposed to look in order to establish these things. But it is in place now for that dual enrollment credit and kind of a model for how to do that. This articulation agreement, the people involved in that needed to know a little bit more about the dual enrollment relationship in order to kind of feel good about approving that going forward. And so that also got delayed a little bit. It's not yet accomplished, but it's very close. And so we feel good about that as well. Industrial Advisory Board, they give us curriculum feedback. They help us to know what sorts of skills are important for these students to have, not just technical skills, but also other things that will make them successful in their careers. Manufacturing Week field trip, that's an event that we have in North Louisiana, and they help us with some sites that can be gone and visited for that. Scholarship program from one of our advisory board was really, really generous and helps to sort of move students and make them feel better about getting into one of these educational programs so that they can eventually get into this industry. Another thing that that these advisory board members contributed were some slides. So we basically collected some slide decks from a bunch of our industrial advisory board constituents that kind of describe what it is that they do in their industry, and that way we can make that part of the curriculum and show students in high school this is the kind of thing that you might be doing. embedded into those, and even extra ones as well, are certain quotes that help them to know that we're not just making this up. Those people in industry really do have something in mind as far as the types of skills and knowledge that they are hoping students have so that they can feel good about hiring them. So all of this was accomplished on time as well. This is one that we're almost there. We're looking for a total of 7 partners, and right now we're at 6. And so we're looking for that last one, but this is how we're sort of trying to roll this whole curriculum as well as our bigger goals of the project out to the largest number of potentially interested people in our area as possible. Some of the challenges with that, there's more turnover in these areas than you might expect at first. So a teacher might not be at a school, they might be interested, but then eventually they move to another school. And one of the issues there is that both a teacher as well as kind of at least one teacher and at least one administrator have to really think this is a good idea in order for it to move forward at any school. So the fact that you need that kind of cooperation there is important. One thing to help this a little bit is that we have identified essentially kind of 2 participation levels. One is doing the full curriculum, and if they do the full curriculum and choose to try to do it for dual enrollment credit, that can be a big selling point for certain students who might want to do it. Other schools might not feel good about having to implement the entire curriculum, and so we kind of make all of the curriculum available to them so that they can choose little bits and pieces, certain specific projects, certain presentations about areas that the students might get into with respect to instrumentation and controls. We make that all available so that if a school decides to adopt on some smaller level than the entire dual enrollment course, they have the ability to do that, and we can still reach those students at those other schools. So this is mostly accomplished, and it is on time. We are having regular assessments from our external evaluator. They're looking at things like interviews with the stakeholders in this. They're looking at survey data. They're looking at the actual documents that we're creating as part of this curriculum development and other things that we're setting up with this project. They have said that we are having some pretty good overall success with a few little minor setbacks, and here's some of those that I'm going to share with you. One is they said we need to provide more resources for teachers and counselors, so more information for them. That's actually kind of in the second bullet there, more communication with them. They just needed to know more about what was going to be expected. Part of that's tricky because we're developing curriculum along the way, so some of those, the specifics of what's going to go on in the project haven't really been established yet, and so it just took time for the curriculum team to get all that together. And so that was actually another recommendation they provided, was make clearer goals and accountability, particularly for that curriculum development side. So that's we're very close to being finished with the curriculum development now, and so that makes the rest of the project easier as well. So here are some lessons learned. With colleges and universities, it's important to start early, to discuss people's roles, and then understand that you're not necessarily going to get to keep the same exact team, both your immediate team as well as the other people at your institution, because there is going to be turnover. So just sort of have that in mind and make sure things are documented well so that when turnover occurs, you can still keep the project moving. With high schools, it's important to understand their politics and what drives a high school, what the kind of things that are important in order to make their high school work well and get good grades, kind of good scores and everything. It is important early on to start thinking about making sure that you're getting a diverse group of people who are going to experience your project. That diverse group of people should look something like your community, so both race, gender, and other areas that you should be thinking about there. Try to make sure that what you're doing is attractive to those people, and try to identify some people who might be able to be a good face for this. Consider credentialing, right? I mentioned that earlier, but it is important for us to know that people need to be credentialed, and a lot of states, our state is certainly looking at that a lot more closely to make sure that people are credentialed properly to teach the courses that they're teaching. That can end up being a roadblock to getting something like this implemented in a high school. As far as industry is concerned, we definitely had to kind of expand our view of what industry was going to be good for. They have been good for a lot of things, not just having an industrial advisory board meeting. That's good, but also giving us things like those slide decks, providing scholarships, directly interfacing with the students. There's a lot of good ways that those industry people are wanting to try to reach out to those high school, partners, and having this, these connections was a big part of our project. So we maybe should have seen it earlier, but they've definitely been really good at providing a lot of those needs that we need in order to connect the students to the industries that they're going to be working in. And by the way, I'll just mention there's this other project, workingpartnersproject.org. in case you're interested in looking at other ways that your industry partners can actually be involved. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you join us for our Q&A session on Wednesday, June 24th at 11:20 to 11:40. That's when they tell me that's going to happen. So maybe I'll see some of you there. I hope you have a great day.